Hello and welcome to the first Warno SD League Season 5 game for Division 4 with Zaywan versus Princess Evelyn. And before we get into the action, I have something new for Season 5 to show you, because we have a pick and ban tool for this season. And Zaywan was the host, with Princess Evelyn being the guest in this draft. The way it works is we have a timeline up here in the top, so we can see what happened in which order. After the start, the host, the one who created this draft, gets to ban 3 maps, in this case Omen, Chandra and Surrounded. Then there's a pause, so that the guest can think about what he wants to ban. In this case, Kreide, Mount River and Isura. And then there's another pause before the first division bans, in this case 82nd Airborne and 1st Armored Division. And then the blue icons are the host again, and Zaywan decided to ban 1st Canadian Division, Territorial Kommando Süd and 2nd Panzergrenadier. And the last ban from Princess Evelyn was 2nd Infantry Division from the UK, 2nd UK. And then we have these green icons. Those are for the picks. So first you have the 3 map bands and 3 division bands from each player. And then they will pick the division and maps for both of their matches. So first the host, in this case Zaywan, picked Airport, and then 4E as the division for the map Airport. And after the break, Princess Evelyn decided to go with 5E and picked as the second map Black Forest with 6 which was counterpicked at the end by Zaywan with 90s Motostrelecke Devise. One thing to point out in this case, the dice icons over here and for 5E mean that the player had a random pick, so it wasn't actually a decision by the player, but because they ran out of time, they accidentally got a randomized division for the ban and here the pick. One tip I gave both of them and wrote in the Discord channel: you have these breaks. They are unlimited. So when you get to this point and you want to think about what to ban, think of all 3 bans, search for the icons down here on the list, which is pretty long, so it's better to check first where the divisions are before you start, before you ready up, and then you unpause, and then you have a 30 seconds timer for each of your bans. So use the breaks and don't feel rushed to immediately press ready, because then you don't have enough time to think about your pick or ban and find the icon in the list. Just as a little tip. So based on this draft, the first map is Airport with 4E against 5E, and then on the second map we will play Black Forest 6 against 90 Motostrelecke. So let's head right into it. On the left we can see Lord Zaywan in blue with 4E, and on the red side Princess Evelyn with 5E. 4E has AFVs without ATGMs, so that's one downside of this division, that they don't have a lot of AFVs with ATGMs like a lot of the packed divisions, for example. But they have a lot of Leo tanks, for example the Leopard 2A4C with 18 armor, 21 pen gun for 280 points. So it's a way heavier division in this matchup. And they have the KTC Vercanas as special forces that start with GSR. You can already see a few of them on the battlefield. And the division has no helicopters. While on the other side, we have a way lighter division with 5E. They have a limited amount of infantry units, but their big strength is their cheap but fast AMX tanks. For example, the AMX 30B2 Brenners with 10 armor, but 90 pen, 1 additional health point, and for just 165 points. So while they have little armor, they cost not as much and can be spammed a lot more. And because they're fast, they can do flank attacks and go around and attack from the side and make up for the lack of armor that way. The 5E also has Dragon Paras as Special Forces scouts with 6 men. We can see them here already. Just one as far as I can see at the moment. They're Special Forces scouts with 6 men, shock trade, GSR, smokes. So they're quite efficient for early territory defense and scouting. And while 4E has no helicopters, 5E has Gazelle helicopters. They're cheap helicopters for 50 to 65 points, but, well, at least they have something. And one thing I also wanted to point out, I don't know if Princess Evelyn will have a seaplane in the deck, but the seaplane 5E has might be a good counter to the Cheetah and Eyehawk AA that 4E can bring to the battlefield. So that's something we can also check out later, if that's something that may have turned things around, or if that would have been a valid strategy in this case. So let's take a look. Let us take a look at the deployment. We can see a lot of scouts on the side of Lord Zaywan. It's a relatively wide deployment in all directions for the scouts. Very defensive scouts here in the north. We have a Pirate going towards the middle, which is the location that probably most of the battles will take place. Since 4E is more of a heavy division and wants the open space for the tanks, and 5E has not as many infantry units for the town in the south, I think both players will prioritize the north, as is pretty common for most people in most matchups. And then we have a bunch of Natres infantry units, and an anti-air gun is also in the mix, and the Maréchaussée, the infantry military police force. So a lot of infantry units actually here on the side of 4E. Several going to the center town and southern town. While we have another blip also going more towards the northern side actually. So my guess that they will both be fighting for the north wasn't correct so far. One thing to point out, apart from the fact that this second batch is mostly the AA as support, AA against infantry also, TOW2 and Pirate. So these are the support units, and here are the fighting infantry units. And 4E is a tank division. So if you play like this, you aren't actually playing to the strengths of your division. Maybe it's a good play in this case, we will have to see. But in most cases, each division has a strength, and you want to play to that strength to make use of it. So if you have a division that has a lot of good tanks, you might want to bring them out in the opener so that you can take advantage of it. I mean, it can be a tactic, it can be a try, but that's usually how it might be helpful to play. So if we look at the other side with 5E, we have not as many scouts. One comes in a helicopter, one goes to the south, and 2 up to the north. So the Eclair come with a helicopter so that they can fast deploy here in Foxtrot as a point of interest, which is usually, as I said, the places where a lot of battles will take place. In this case we have an AMX leader, but it will go first to Bravo in the north and Milan 2 in Osgord. So that's more defensive and support. We have a commando unit, 65 special forces with 10 people, and it will go into the location pretty much in the center, between the southern town and the northern zones. It's a 10-man squad, so it's second veterancy level. So that's a unit you want to bring here to secure this area because it's quite an important location with the tower. And we have a bunch of additional units, pretty much center and lower center, including a mortar, maybe for smoke play, and another AMX leader. So we have 2 leaders for Princess Evelyn, while if I remember correctly, there's no leader on the side of Lord Zaywan. So either the commander was forgotten, or he wants to play it slow and have a lot of forces in the opener to perhaps bring the map to an early victory, so that the points won't matter as much if he destroys a lot of units. Then the situation with the points is not as important. But if the map will take a bit longer, then that might be a big issue if he has a lot of points distance to the opponent early up in the match. And I'm interested to see if the smoke or the mortar in general will play a role in the early stage of the game. Like, that's usually something you buy later, or if you want to smoke off a corner of a zone, but not so early in the match. And we have one of the Brenners that I mentioned, one of the best tanks for this division. And it wants to control this empty space over here. So I would give Princess Evelyn the advantage in the deployment. I think it's the stronger positioning, and there's a lot of infantry for Lord Zaywan that's defensive and unclear if he will be able to make use of it. One of the advantages also of having a tank with your early deployment is that when your infantry units are the meat shield, a tank behind can deal out the damage and pick off infantry fighting units that otherwise outrange your infantry units and might kill them before they get into range to shoot. But yeah, let's take a look how it plays out. And maybe I will be wrong. Maybe it will all develop differently than I think. We will see. Let's go. So in this map, airport, there's usually the focus in the north that I've mentioned because of the empty space, which is why I thought the pick of 4E made a lot of sense with the heavy tanks. And the Brenners can go around, or the AMX, the fast tanks for the 5E division, and make use of the slower tanks on the other side, heavier tanks. We have an AA plane in there, so that can pick off the scouts or commando helicopter if it wants to. There isn't as much anti-air, especially forward, on the side of Princess Evelyn. I mean, the 4E has no helicopter, so there was no reason to bring out early A, I guess. But the commando helicopter takes a lot of damage, luckily doesn't get destroyed. Luckily for Princess Evelyn. And the airplane has to retreat, so that's 125 points just to make a bit of damage on a Super Puma that retreats. So that plane did not pay off. The first zone is captured in the south, and the MX goes forward to give firing support in the upvet to the units in the area. M130 does a bit of damage on a web. The web is hiding behind the buildings, but now the infantry unit gets under fire. That 2-2 is going a dangerous path at the moment. The commandos can't yet shoot at it, but they will relocate into the tower and then probably support the vehicles to destroy the TOW2. But it gets the AMX transport, so at least something. Could have been worse. I expected the TOW2 to get destroyed by the commandos and transport on the way. but well, at least got something. We have the UFOs AA guns as infantry support on the front line. More helicopters with scouts coming in. So we have some quick reinforcement with scouts. And the escortee actually moving forward. 8-man squads. And they have no anti-vehicle weapons, but in this case they have the support of the AMX behind them, so it doesn't matter as much. So Princess Evelyn is already putting on a bit of pressure. She doesn't have additional zones at the moment, so it's 2 zones, or 3 zones now, against 1. And the leader of Zaywan isn't moving anymore. At least they got a good hit on the leader of Princess Evelyn. Sadly not a kill. But it was a try, and I assume that cluster bomber comes in to finish the job, as there's not enough AA to discourage it. Oh, unlucky. Unlucky. If the Roland... Well, at least the Roland doesn't get the kill, so the plane can return later. But that is unfortunate that 2 planes couldn't kill the AMX. So far only the KTC Verkenas is holding the zone in the center, the Echo zone. And as the leader of Blue is only moving now to take the southern zone and then tries to go up. I'm not sure if that's a safe... if he will take a safe route. Because I assume he might go this way through the town and right by the enemy units. And even if the CV takes the road up north, I think that's still a dangerous position. Could get into the range of the Brenners if the Brenners moves forward a little bit. But both players being relatively defensive and passive at the moment. Which makes sense from the side of Evelyn, since Red has a +2 score at the moment. So Blue, Zaywan, is a player who has to push and, well, first of all, capture all of his zones and then make a push to get the point lead back. Moto is actually trying to deal damage against the defensive forces. But so far, no kills, no real damage dealt at the moment. Mortars aren't the most efficient at dealing damage. It's better to have the proper artillery units for that. Or was it a smoke? Oh, it was smoke against the possible ATGM units. But there isn't one in this building. There's one over here. Oh, yeah, the leader. I showed that the route went through the town. So that was a bit of a bad micro that you set the movement command down to the south zone and then directly fast moving to the next zone without making a step in between to ensure that it takes a good route. So that's something Zaywan can definitely improve upon to ensure the units don't take routes through enemy territory. Zaperos with a flamethrower moving in. Is it 2 units? It is 2 units, actually. So they are strong against infantry units and buildings. But they get shot by the AA unit in the south. We have a mortar unit now on the side of Zaywan as well. And the lighter version of the Leopard that are in the deck of the 4E division, the Leopard 1NL. So the decision here is not on the more expensive Leopard 2A3s or 2A4s, but on the 1NL variant, which has only 9 front armor and a 70 pen gun, which is enough for the MX-30 tanks. But the division definitely has better units. Oh, and the MX-30 B2 commander is destroyed. So that's a heavy loss on the side of Princess Evelyn. HE plane comes in. So a lot more airplay at the moment for Zaywan, but it's punished with 2 Rolands firing upon the HE bomber and immediately destroying it. Still no CV for the center zone. It's Echo. And Mephisto going down in the center. But a bit of back and forth, damage dealt. And probably dead tank. Yep. It's a bit of back and forth here in the southern town for a defensive position. I'm not sure if it's really necessary for Princess Evelyn to push into this, since she has the point lead and the tick lead. I think she could be a bit more defensive, while the blue side Zaywan has to be the one to push and take risk. So basically, by pushing, she gives Zaywan the advantage of being able to make use of the infantry units with a short range rocket launchers and such. While if Evelyn stays back, then Zaywan has to push and the infantry units can't fire for most of the way. So that would give an advantage to Evelyn. Support units from the south still firing, not getting destroyed yet. But the MX is trying. No movement up in the north, but we have a CV unit on the side of Zaywan, so at least he will finally stop the tick, but it will be 600 points at that time. Tau 2 out of ammo, but the supply truck is already here. Milan 2s trying to pick up units down here. But the Leopards are ruining their days. One Leopard destroyed, but one Milan as well. HE bomber is back again. And we have the first proper artillery unit, the M109A2, on the battlefield. On the other side, the reinforcements are more Brennus's to deal with the Leopards 1NL, I assume. But another MX-30 has been destroyed. I feel like the numbers for the infantry units of blue have been reduced quite a bit. So certainly there's an ongoing issue for the blue side that they can't push forward, that they're under pressure, but they're also behind on the points. So it's a difficult challenge now. And since the 5E are actually the faster, more mobile division, flank attack is also difficult. So one of the things Zaywan could try is going through the south or the north now that the battle is in the center. But the MX-30s can quickly move from one side to another side. So it's not as efficient against this division as against slower divisions. CV finally finding the way in the zone. Too far away for the infantry units. So it does survive. One of the things you can also try, but maybe a bit too early or not the right moment for it, but you could try to move CV through the north into this zone. But that's more of a desperate play to get some points. It will probably not make up the 640 points. HE bomber trying to go for the infantry unit. If you already know that there's anti-air units, then sending in a single plane like this is probably a suicide mission and not worse against a single scout unit. So the targets for the air units should be selected better, especially if you have an artillery unit that can pick off the scouts without having to risk their lives. So that's probably one of the bigger issues at the moment for Zaywan. There's an artillery unit, but it's not being used at the moment. At the same time, a leader of Evelyn makes its way into the center zone. So we have another point take for Evelyn. Was pretty well played so far from Evelyn, I would say. Gets the control of the zone with a few infantry units and support from the center. A lot of red units here in one block. That's actually something that could be dangerous if more planes come in at once. With a cluster plane, they could deal a lot of damage. We have scouts and helicopters for fast reinforcements. It's a pretty solid play by Evelyn so far. 2-2 in the south, only getting a web. Maybe a bit of small defenses in the south for Evelyn, but apart from that, decent. And the clusters try to get where the leader was before, I assume. So that wasn't... probably they lost sight of the tank. So yeah, 2 cluster planes that didn't hit anything. That's pretty disappointing. You can make an attack ground command so that the planes drop their bombs even if they lose sight of the target. But if the target moves, obviously the bombs will drop in a location where nothing is anymore. So you have to consider if the target is moving, then it's probably not efficient. But if you have a lot of units in buildings or bunched up, then that might be a move to make sure that the bombs are dropped. But one of the cluster plane went down. A genie, a gazelle cannon in the south. So far, no decisive push into any direction. We have a Leopard 2A4B. It can deal with the Brenners, but well, it has 60 armor against a 19 handgun. So it can take a hit, but probably doesn't want to fight forever, but it gets a kill. All good. 2 supply helicopters moving out after they used all of their supplies. So it's also something that seems to be working quite well on the side of Princess Evelyn with the supplies to repair and resupply the units. Well, as I say that, there's a Roland. Now it has the 3 rockets. Units in the north to ensure that no flanks come from there. CV of Zaywan tries to get into the corner. So while the zone was captured by red for a long time, it's not really under full control. There's still the side where blue can get a unit in. I'm not sure if the AA gun should be the one scouting and going forward. Well, it seems to work for the moment. But yeah, there's only 1 scout up here. Not as many scouts. Not an infantry scout in the buildings, for example. A lot of rockets flying back and forth. 2-2 gets a Mephisto. The mortar is out of ammo. And we have more infantry units. And I think the artillery hasn't fired a single time. So that's definitely an issue. supply trucks are... 2 supply trucks for the mortar and a new one for the leopards. Like, one of the things artillery could do is firing into the corner to try and get the CD. But we're still at the +1 tick with about 950 points now for Princess Evelyn. So again, it's not enough to just take the zone and stop the tick, but you also have now 22 minutes left to get a big enough point plus tick to make up for this almost 1000 points that you're behind now. So there is a lot of pressure on the side of Zaywan now, that he needs to find a way to get a point tick, that relatively soon. We have no artillery apart from the mortars on the side of Princess Evelyn in red. The zone in the center. Leopard 2A 4B was destroyed. That's a pretty heavy loss. Pretty loss. Another very damaged 2A4 Leopard down in the south. So I think there are 2 options at the moment for Zaywan. If you really want to push in the center, you have to build up a big blob with the heavy tanks and infantry units as support and everything else around it for the combined arms, and use the artillery to get out the Milans and the, at best, the MX-30. Or you need to build up groups to flank in the south and north, because in the center it seems like a very difficult to penetrate front line. He has a bit of airplay. I don't know how many of his planes are still left after the losses he had, but that's something he has been doing work with during the match, so maybe he can try to force something with the air units. But he tries to run forward with tanks and CV without infantry support, without scouts, so that seems like a bad angle to attack. Let's fly towards the CV, and the CV goes down. The Leopard takes a lot of damage. So there was an attack where either a smoke screen was needed or an infantry unit as scout. And now he loses a Leopard 2A, 4B, and another one. So that's a lot of heavy losses. The 2-2 has no ammo left down here. 2 infantry units in the south, not really accomplishing anything. Well, I guess the transport was destroyed, but we have enough units down here. But I guess the 2A4B is a bit of a problem in the south. We have a Jaguar plane now coming in for Princess Evelyn. So that's a quick way of destroying vehicles. If you, like in the south, don't have the ATGM or your own tanks ready. I think the Jaguar just shows Princess Evelyn that there's quite the big lack of anti-air units. Or a lack of ammunition for it, rather. Because the plane can just fly around freely. Now the AA plane from Zaywan gets a hit in, but retreats. Which is a net win for Princess Evelyn, because Princess Evelyn has a point take +2 now, so she has all the time. Infantry units are getting picked off. Well, pretty much on both sides, actually. They are the victims of getting bullied by the tanks and IVs. Oh, the artillery is firing now against the Roland. I think now with 80 minutes left and 1,200 points differences, it's maybe too late to start firing at the anti-air units and support units. It actually trying to force something in a zone. Because if you try to fight for a victory and not just to not lose, basically, then you want to destroy the leader, you want to destroy any unit that prevents you from advancing forward and getting a zone. I'm not sure why that was even that far forward. I don't think there was a plane or a helicopter. So if you want to have an AA plane out in case that your opponent brings something into the battlefield just for safety, maybe send it toward the rear and let it go in circles in the rear. Now 3 artillery pieces. So yeah, so you have a 125 points going down in the attempt to kill a 65 point gazelle hot. So especially since you should know about the AAE on the side of Princess Evelyn by now. That's a suicide mission, that's just not worth it. So maybe a bit more ground-based AA, like the stingers that are coming in right now. But they're going towards the south, I think. Maybe more towards the center and north, for at least one of them, to take out gazelles. That might be an idea. So at this point you should ask yourself, okay, what's the point of attack? Where do I want to focus? And then you have to make a risky move. Like if you're that far behind, you already lost a lot of units, you just have to take a gamble, I think, because if things continue the way they have for the last 25 minutes, then you're just going to lose. So if you're in the position of Zaywan, you just have to try and make something work, take a risk, and if it doesn't work, well, you still lose, but you lose faster. And you have at least a chance to get back. But on the other hand, it's Division 4, it's newer players, you can enjoy getting a bit of experience and a bit of back and forth, so I guess it's not too bad to keep the match rolling for a bit longer as well, in this regard. Milan 2 firing at the transport, and not getting the damage in. There are support, but just one. Artillery is not firing again. So artillery play is definitely something that can be improved. Leopard getting a side shot, I think, from Milan 2. Well, with 24 pen, I think maybe it was a frontal hit. But because the tank was shooting a different direction, so I was expecting a side shot. Okay, now the artillery is taking aim. And it's firing towards the center. Two of them are, or all three of them, check. All three of them are firing to the same location. That might be a bit of overkill. Maybe if it's a heavy target, 2 units, 2 artillery shots might be good enough, but 3 artillery pieces at the same location might be overkill. One little tip, or 2 tips actually. Don't position your artillery on the roads that are for reinforcements, because if counter battery comes in, then it might hit units that are just passing by. So move your artillery more in a safe location, somewhere in open field or to the side of the road. And if you put a CV, a commander, near the artillery pieces, they get 1 veteran sea level, so they load and aim faster. So if you have 3 artillery pieces like this, get a cheap leader near them, or one that you don't need at the moment, And that way you get a bit of an advantage. Yeah, on the side of Evelyn we still don't see any big artillery pieces. I think it's for 5E it was the AMX Aufklärer, the artillery piece. I think it isn't a very big one, but could still do some damage. Mortar is firing a smoke screen in the south. I'm not sure against what. But yeah, with about 1,700 points and 12 minutes left, it looks very much decided already, because the numbers of the red forces are simply too big to expect a quick push through. You could use some mortars to smoke off like the corner over here and try to sneak in a CV that way, but that would only lower the point take to +1, so that's not enough at the moment. Stinger's moving forward to get a Gazelle hot. Well, Gazelle isn't landed, so technically they could shoot, but they have to get close enough, and they actually do get the kill. So they both die, but at least they got the kill for the honor. Artillery is getting in some nice hits, potentially killing the leader. And it goes down, yeah. So that's a nice pickoff. It's a bit too late, but technically also a winning condition is to destroy all of the commander, like the leaders of the enemy, so that they don't get the option to take back the zones. So that way, even if you don't capture all the zones or you only get them to neutral, if they can't get it back, they can't get the point tick down. So that's also an option in a longer match. But I don't think there were enough leader skills on the side of red for it to be actually a matter in this case. Let's check if there a leader anywhere near the zone for red. I don't see one at the moment. So that's something that could be maybe a tip for Princess Evelyn, to have a backup CV, so that if a zone gets captured, if blue pushes through now to the north, for example, that you have a leader down here to take a zone back or at least contest it. At least there's a good use of the smoke in general on both sides. The smokes, for some reason, are something I keep forgetting when I play. So I'm happy to see that both of the players try to use the smoke for their advantage and smoke off ATGMs and enemy units in general. Artillery is firing towards a spot that is now empty. Transport with an AA gun, going a rather difficult and dangerous route, and get destroyed. One infantry unit is not moving. I didn't notice if that was here the whole time, if that was a deployment unit from the start. But it seems like it didn't get a command where to go. If that was there since the start, then yeah, that's a bit of a shame. Could have maybe helped on the opener. Yeah, so my initial idea that they would fight mostly with the tanks in the north was completely wrong. They played more for the center and the town in the center with infantry units and tanks in the background to support, of course, but not the location that I assumed they would fight over. Artillery coming in. One thing I forgot to do is to make a spreadsheet how much points you get per minute with a +1, +2, +3 tick and so on, so that I can take a quick look and know how much tick you need for, like in this case, 1,800 points in 7 minutes, if that's still possible. I think it's incredibly difficult, probably impossible. And still would be interesting to be able to say, okay, how many minutes and how many zones you need to take at this point. Stingers coming in. It's not the unit that will help you get a zone at this point, so doesn't seem like the right choice at the moment. Even though I like to use a ground-based AA to secure these guys. Cluster bomber coming in. So still smoke coming in. A bit of... Well, Princess Evelyn managed to take the zone in the north, the center. So now back to a +2, 2 minutes, 20s left for the victory. The AMX tanks destroying the infantry units in the south. Planes coming in. 2 AA planes for the Gazelle cannons. I think they didn't even get a kill. That's a pretty disappointing result, but the IR gets a kill. I think there were even 2 killed in the splash damage. So 2 planes for Gazelle cannons doesn't really seem worth it. But I mean, at this point, it's not what makes a difference. But yeah, another plane coming in just for the cheap helicopters. It seems like a waste of points. One trick that Chloride once taught in a stream that I remember, use these cheap helicopters as bait. Put them over an anti-air unit, like the Roland here, and make the enemy bring in his planes to suicide on the helicopters and destroy them with the AA that's nearby. So that you are actively trying to bait this kind of AA plane to get it destroyed. Pretty much as just happened. But it makes it out alive. Another cluster plane coming in. Yeah, only 5 minutes left in the match, but only 55 seconds until the +2 point tick will bring Princess Evelyn the victory. The leader is still a bit away, but might actually make it in. So it might delay the defeat a little bit. Jaguar, AT, doesn't get one of the Leopards, but one is heavily damaged. So the push down here isn't that bad. Just maybe, no, gets shut down by the Jaguar, or at least try to. But if you're in this kind of situation with a time pressuring, you should make a fast movement command instead of staying still to fire at stuff, because you need the zone. So rush into this corner, take the zone. Even if you take a bunch of shots, you have to take the risk. You have to hurry at this point. And yeah, something that I was expecting actually earlier was that the CV tank that was up here in the center would go to the northern zone just to try something. But yeah, that finishes the first map. Princess Evelyn with 5E wins with a actually lower kill ratio. So Princess Evelyn lost more units, but still managed to get the important kills and the territory, the zones. And Lord Zaywan more kills, but wasn't able to get any points on the board. I don't think that the lack of early CV units played a matter in that aspect. So that he didn't buy a CV unit at the start wasn't what decided created his misery. We have a bunch of kills. Ihawk got a lot of kills. Leopard. So I think he didn't do too badly in keeping the leopards alive. And as I say that, I see a lot of leopards in the kill feed. But yeah, it is what it is. So let's head straight to the second map. So now we are on Black Forest, with Princess Evelyn this time being in blue on the left side, and Zaywan on the right side in red. Princess Evelyn is playing as Xixia. The strengths of the division are the T80B and T64BV tanks with 60 and 70 armor, a 90 pen gun, and they have long range missiles with 90 and 21 penetration, so they can make use of an advantage in the range over other tanks. While on the other side, Zaywan with a Motostrelecke has T72M1 tanks. They have 17 armor, so pretty even, 90 pen on the gun, so also even with the other tanks on the side of Princess Evelyn. And Zaywan has a lot of those tanks, so an advantage in numbers. His division also has SHK 2S7 artillery. It's a 240 point artillery with 38,000 meter range. So that's something he can make use of. He has a 6-man special forces as scouts, so an advantage in this regard. And his division has seaplanes. So maybe this time we'll see seaplanes. Last game there wasn't one, so all my expectations were ruined once again. Yeah, maybe this time a seaplane will get some action. If we look at the deployment, let's start with the left side. We have a few scouts here. I think those are the special force. No, those are the normal scouts. Down in the south, taking a center building, and at Fedor. I think in the center you can actually be a bit more aggressive with the deployment, where you unload. And one for the city and one from the northern town. Usually the rule of thumb is that the faster division or the lighter division gets the northern town. I'm not sure if that would be Princess Evelyn's case or Zaywan. I have to check who invests more into it. We have a Luftjägersturm Mantis, so that's a special forces squad with 8 men. And because of the helicopter, they get very fast into this tower, so that will probably secure the area. And if we check where the other units are going, so there's quite a bit of an investment in the north in the town. And we have one T-55A tank and an Igla as anti-air. While we have here a Tunguska and one of the bigger tanks, the T-64 BV, also together with an Igla in the group. And the Igla is going actually away from the rest of the group, but the Tunguska will give the AA coverage. And one of the things that you should always keep in mind is that if you buy a tank, especially an expensive tank in the early stage, you want it to be near anti-air units, so that a quick plane or helicopter from the opponent can't destroy the big investment in the opener directly in the early game before you get your AA network open. So it doesn't seem like a very aggressive deployment, maybe for the northern zone, but pretty defensive in the rest. Let's see how I have to remember that they are now switched on sides and colors. Lord Zaywan is on the right side now. A lot of scouts. Those are the special forces scouts with GSR, but only, oh, it's 6 men. It's not actually, I thought it was 4 people, but it's 6-man squads. And they are going relatively defensive as well. Very defensive, actually, I would say. It's a question whether they are supposed to stay out of the battle and just in the background scouting, or if the rest of the units are also defensive. We have quite a few helicopters with Concorde missiles. So there's a quick deployment of an Eagler and... Oh no, the concourse is inside. The transport doesn't have a concourse, as I tried to explain it. Yeah, and also very defensive. So you have ATGM and Eagler as anti-air in the south. No real fighting infantry units, just the scouts. It's one for the north, but also very far in the back. So the scouts go into the zone, but the infantry unit further back. So I don't know if that's out of fear for anti-air units, but if you have the fast deploying rocket transport helicopter, I think you should be a bit more aggressive with your deployment. And the AAPs also going. So it actually will be a focus on the northern town. So both believe they could get it. So maybe just as I was not sure which division will get the northern zone, they don't know either. So they will fight it out. And the rest of the units are pretty defensive. It seems a bit light on the side of Zaywan, so maybe some planes come in as well. I think he had an AA plane in the last map. So yeah, that's something to watch out for. Maybe a bit of airplay coming in here. Alright, let's start and see where we get with this. So what I would usually expect from the deployment would be more aggressive, like in these buildings, maybe in the forest below, and that there would be a focus here in the center. While there's a zone in the north called center, that would be confusing. But for the northern zone, usually one of the divisions only puts a scout somewhere around the roads towards the zone, and the other division often overinvests into it, and then the heavier division that doesn't go to the north has more units in the other parts of the map and can make advantage of that. Fedor is often one of the places where a bit more fighting and back and forth goes on, because the center is better protected with the buildings and the forest around it. So both sides have a harder time pushing forward and taking Boris or Anna in this case. So Fedor, as a more open, more contested zone, is a point of interest for both sides. A leader is being bought for the north. I actually forgot to check, but Zaywan again. Oh no, it's Princess Evelyn this time on the left side. I'm still not used to it. Takes a moment. No CV in the opener. That's a bit surprising. The AA MiG might get one of the transport if it doesn't go down quickly. That would be a heavy loss. Yeah, that goes down. So that's a very heavy loss in the early parts of the match. So while that is... Well, I think it's a worth investment in this case. You get a bit of tempo, you properly secure the zone, you can take the defensive positions. And maybe the MiG will also get another kill. If it still has some rockets, but it flies over the AA of Princess Evelyn. Probably going to call them by the wrong names for a while. I was about to say Zaywan again. I'm not sure if I would be so forward with the deployment of the helicopter after seeing an A plane. And it might actually get shot by the units that are in the zone already. So deployment further in the back might be smart at this point. Same with... Oh, well, the transport is fine. And there's a tanker support. That's pretty nice. Against the IFV and AA. But the leader probably getting shred in there. The MiG was also about to go in for it. But immediately a CV comes as replacement, so Evelyn hasn't given up on the northern point. That's interesting. And more helicopters. I'm not sure if I would buy 2 more helicopters after losing 2 helicopters with units inside. Yeah, the MiG is still around. It's about to run out of fuel, but still, you have seen the AA 30mm gun, so you should know it's not a safe location to go with helicopters. Only the back zones captured so far. The UART's about to go into Fedor. The leader in the center not going forward. It's usually that Boris is the zone for the red player, while I think it's Anna, or what was the name? Like the big town is usually the zone for the blue player, so the map splits between those two zones. Another MiG AA plane coming in to deal with the helicopters. The rocket doesn't hit. AA actually got destroyed with a 30mm gun. So now the helicopters can do some damage until the MiG plane comes in. Two MiGs fighting against each other, both missing. A coup is now coming in the north. So a lot of investment into AA. It's an interesting way the map plays out. One of the things I could give as a little tip, you can always try to go a bit more farther forward with units if you don't see any opponents in the area, just to check if there is something, or send in a suicide helicopter that costs only 30 points, something like that. Because like in this case, both is completely empty, both players don't know, because they haven't checked. So while you're fighting in the north, maybe send one of the infantry units or a transport vehicle or something forward. Just test if there are units. Try to get information. So you're not only fighting for kills, you are also trying to get information and try to make best use of the location. Like Princess Lord Zaywan is moving forward with his units slowly but steadily. Like that's exactly what I was talking about. Get a bit more forward, test the waters, and try to find space and check where the enemy locations are. Because they are scared of something that isn't there. And to know if it's there or not, we have to do something. We have to send a scout, a helicopter, or something to make sure what is the situation. We have one scout here on the road to make sure that nothing comes down here, and to check probably in this area as well. But the northern zone, thanks to the helicopters, is now actually under the control of Princess Evelyn. And that brings Princess Evelyn in blue to a +2 tick. So now Zaywan is once again in the position he has to push. And if in the north the battle is not going his way, then maybe he should try to pressure into a different location. And that might be in the south. Because in the north, if he's losing there, and in the center he doesn't know, maybe the south would be a location to go. This AA piece could move a bit forward. There are 3 transports with units inside not moving forward, just being in the back of the zone at the moment. I'm not sure if they were forgotten about. But yeah, if these units would move to the center or southern zone, that might give an advantage. You could also bring in a smoke to ensure that this building or the one over here could get smoked off in case there's an ATGM unit inside. But yeah, we are once again in the situation that Princess Evelyn has the point tick, can stay defensive, doesn't have to push, while Zaywan has a clock ticking for him. Tank going down to the helicopter. I'm actually surprised one of the helicopters goes down. Second one might go down to the plane now. Yeah, it goes down. I'm actually surprised how much these helicopters managed to achieve despite the MiG and AA forces of Zaywan. The MiG goes down actually to the MiG-31B. It's a 275 point AA plane, but it now deals with a coup, and that might be a fight it's going to lose. No, coup misses. The coup has only an accuracy of 45%. One of the things Procomi, one of the Division 1 players and winner of the last season, does is actually taking one coup on a higher veterancy level and use it for the start. It means you have less in the deck due to the limits of the cards, but it has a higher accuracy and makes it more likely that you hit one of the planes, especially early in the game, where those units are a big investment. That can help. I'm not sure if that's really worth it for players in Division 4, or if having more cards is actually more beneficial. So that depends a bit on your playstyle, how aggressive you are, how long your matches take, if you can really buy all the units in your deck, or if you can use a card for that. One of the T-55 going down. So Zaywan isn't just waiting around. He tries to take the zone, he tries to push back the units in it. So that's good. At the same time, he does secure some ground in the south. I'm missing a CV. Ah, it's going backwards. I think that is a mistake. I think the unit should go the other way around. Like probably a hotkey mistake, but yeah, that's going backwards. Well, it's faster backwards, maybe. I don't know. I assume it was the wrong hotkey. But yeah, the CV is about to go into the zone. I'm not sure, but I think... Well, Zaywan is missing a bit of firing support here to take out units like the Scout. Like an IFV, like the BVPs could help out. They are now moving towards the center. I like that he's more aggressive and tries to take the zones now in the territory. That leader is... that's a bit dangerous to move through territory where you don't know for certain if there's an opponent or not. So that's once again a bit of an issue with the passing. A lot of rockets coming into the CV and take it down. At the same time, a leader also going down in the north. So I'm not sure if the leader had a smoke launcher, so maybe that would have been a savior in this moment. Else getting mortar for the smoke screen or quickly going back might have helped. But yeah, that was obviously something where he didn't know how much units there are in the backline. MiG actually going down in the meantime. Princess Evelyn still at a +1 tick, despite the zone getting neutralized in the south. And we have two quick helicopters coming in the south as a reinforcement to stop this push. But now we have the Igla and behind it the coup that can support the units. And he misses a shot, so the Scout actually gets on a fire, not the Concourse gets BMP. And the ME2 Yuan is now out of rockets, so it can only help with a gun. At this moment you should probably move your Igla forward. I was about to say it and it happens, so good play by Zaywan. And we'll probably kill the helicopter if it doesn't keep missing. At some point it will hopefully get the kill. AT me helicopter by Zaywan getting destroyed. But the Tunguska goes too far forward and gets killed by the Concourse. The Concourse now out of rockets, so it should move backwards and get resupplied. There is no supply truck anywhere yet. Oh, that's a mistake. Ah, there's one coming in now. So he noticed the problem and already called in the supplies. So that's nice that he noticed this kind of stuff. There should also be a supply truck for the north, in my opinion. E-glass coming in now for the center to push back any helicopter play from this side. The Coop could maybe go a bit forward to help out with that problem, because there's no AA directly at the front line, or close by. But the helicopter got destroyed. I'm not sure if the BVPs was the whole unit to take it down, because the guns of the BVPs can shoot at helicopters. It has a 1,500 meter range. T-55 fighting away a concourse. And a leader that is waiting to get into the zone. But the building in the center is taken by a scout. So this might be a good moment for an artillery buy. Princess Evelyn already has a score or point tick. So she can afford to spend some points on artillery and then take out units like the scouts and buildings, the concourse staying around, the group maybe even. Like all static units, defensive units, they are easy to pick off with artillery. On the other side, there's no artillery yet for Zaywan. A lot of units coming in with helicopter. I'm not sure if that's a bit too aggressive. But no. I think he changed. I think it was further on the front line. But yeah, that's fine. Supply truck coming in. Is T-55 going to see it? I don't think so. But it's close. So that's actually a risky pass. In the north, still no real victory for Zaywan to push further into it. That's also a great target for an artillery strike with 2 ATGMs, 1 scout, and directly next to it more units. So yeah, that in this kind of situation where the front line starts to get static and the units don't move as much anymore, especially if you have action in different locations so that the players can't pay attention to everything at once, that might be a good moment for artillery. In general, buying artillery sooner than later means that you can make use of it for longer, so that it is more efficient than if you buy it later into the game. But it's always, of course, a bit difficult to say when is the optimal time, especially if you don't see all the units on the battlefield, as we do at the moment. The leader tries to make it in, but immediately gets under fire by the scout. So that's a bit of an issue. They have a smoke grenade, so technically they could smoke off, but mismicroed, and sadly they go down. So you should probably send the infantry unit first, or make a smoke screen, or use the smoke off the infantry leader to find a safe spot in the zone. But yeah, of course that's always easier said than done in the moment. BMP goes down to the concourse in the south that got resupplied. So I think that apart from the issue with the zones and the point tick, I think Zaywan played pretty well. Gets another CV killed here. So I think he looks stronger already than on the first map. And Yura getting destroyed by the concourse. It's a bit of a dangerous location to be open in the field. Technically, several units could start firing and then it gets destroyed quickly. But so far it's doing a nice job, so who am I to complain? More infantry units and scouts coming in, both in the north and in the south. More concourse vehicles coming in at the same time. Malutka and T-55s coming in. I'm actually surprised we haven't seen any T-72, I think, from Lord Zaywan yet. So the heavier tank of the division isn't played at all, it seems. CV going a dangerous route, but well, he has enough units in the front yet now. ATSU 25k, trying to pick off some units. Yeah, at the same time, we see T-64 BV tanks on the other side from Princess Evelyn. So there are more of the heavy tanks on the side of blue in multiple locations and the TATB. So maybe the idea is for Zaywan, if there are already heavy tanks on the side of Princess Evelyn with the long-range rocket, then an investment into the expensive tanks might be a misinvestment. AAMIC trying to get the SU, but the SU-AT plane goes away. However, the HE bomber tries to get in. However, the MiG is not changing targets, doesn't get the plane, but is destroyed. So the MiG goes down while the SU, both of them, make it out alive. A bunch of infantry units trying to make it through in the south. Coop is out of ammo, so that's maybe something that will matter if more airplanes will come in. We have still damaged units in the north and still fighting. I'm not sure if that's a mistake at the moment to fight for the northern zone for Zaywan. I feel like his position in the south and center are better, so maybe he should make use of that instead of trying to force the issue in the north that they have been fighting for over 20 minutes now. But there are quite a few tanks now for Princess Evelyn, so it's not going to be easy. Point tick is stopped, but with about 800 points on a map like Black Forest, where there isn't a lot of points in the center, only in the back zones there are +2. You don't get back so many points quickly, so that's already a difficult task. So due to the points of the zones, I think actually the smartest idea for Zaywan in this situation would be to push for Elena, since that's a +2 point. While if you fight for what's called a center, that's only a +1 point zone. And another MiG going very far into the territory of the opponent. So that wasn't that smart. It got a me, and the T-55 went down, but the AA of Lord Zaywan was too strong in this location. I'm not sure if, I think I already mentioned this on the first map, but in the later parts of the game, when the A network is already active, there's a lot of A units for your opponent, you don't want to send in single planes, but you want to send multiple at once so that you overload the enemy AA network. So, for example, you could send in a sheep plane first, and the actual cluster bomber, LGB bomber, that is expensive, that comes second, so that the units shoot at the unimportant unit while the important unit makes it through and gets the kill. So we have a relatively static front line at the moment, not much movement, no artillery on either side. So, oh no, never mind. There's a 122mm howitzer on the side of Zaywan. I'm not sure how long it has been there, but it hasn't fired yet, so maybe similar to the previous map, It has been forgotten after the purchase. One of the coops is out of ammo. The one in the south getting supplied. So we have supply trucks in the south. The one on the north empty, but in general not a bad amount of supplies. And focus on the supplies on the side of Zaywan. One of the SU HE bombers got destroyed. Special forces in the south getting to the battle, pushing out Zaperi and Motostrelecke. But there are quite a few, sorry, quite a few units over here in the forest. But yeah, he's pushing forward. He has some AA behind his push, behind his tanks and the special forces. I'm not sure if the tanks aren't like, no, I'm sure the tanks are a bit too aggressive by themselves. Because technically the units over here can move forward and start firing at them. And an infantry unit can come in from the side. Technically. If there would be still one left. But so far only the rockets of the tanks coming in. No smoke screen. Or the T-55 AM1 don't have smokes. In fact, so they're out in the open and under fire, and yeah, they will get demolished. So now we have a lot of dead tanks from the red side. The RPG now firing from the side, so that could get some kills back at least. In the north, Zaywan has to retreat. I think that's fine. I think, as I mentioned earlier, he shouldn't continue the fight over the northern zone. He should try to push here in the south. But he now lost a few tanks. He gets a kill with the RPG from the special forces. So that's quite nice. Oh, we see the seed plant now. That's nice to see. Book getting hit but not destroyed, actually. Tunguska got destroyed in the north. I'm not sure if that was a seed missile. And a second miss by the book, by the siege on the book. So that sucks. He got 2 seed planes and they didn't get the book. Well, that's annoying. And I was so happy to see the siege finally. So, yeah, we have artillery still staying in the back, not firing. So maybe that's on the list of the issues Zaywan could work on, are the artillery, the suicide of planes, and to get more aggressive on the zones maybe. HE bomber getting hit by the book and destroyed. So in both maps he got behind in the point tick and therefore had to play aggressive, maybe more than he wanted to. So that's definitely something to work on. One of the transports with Motorschützen in them got destroyed by the commando, but now it's, or the special forces, but now they're taken out by the helicopter. Quite a brave resupply without any units in front of it. For the center I don't see a CV. Maybe that's also something where you could say, okay, he has to get a point tick, so there should be a CV near the zone of the opponent. There's one in the south. But with 12 minutes to play at 800 points behind, you need more than one zone. So he should try, or he might want to have a CV in the center as well. And depending on where he can break through, capture the zone quickly. Helicopter getting destroyed by the Eagler. Probably very soon. Or, well, the Book does the job. A lot of tanks now coming from the north, but scouts will get a side shot. But now the tank is probably going to turn. The BMP gets another rocket. So at least one BMP got destroyed. And the T-80 has a lot of damage and stress. AT plane makes it out alive. We have a mortar, so there's a bit of smoke play. I'm not sure if that's the location where he wants to make the smoke, but SU comes in. But lost line of sight. Now gets a T-64 BV and an Aufklärer BMP one, and probably makes it out alive as well. Or one book shot comes. Gets the plane. Oh, okay. I spoke too early once again. The book had quite a long range. I underestimated that. Eagler moving forward as a scout, that's a bit of a dangerous move. Probably doesn't expect enemy units down here, but he saw the transport with a Motostrelecke earlier, so maybe he could have expected it. But the T-72, which is now on the battlefield, can give some fire support if he decides to do so. Or maybe he just lets the Eagler die. Never mind. Artillery is still not firing. So yeah, now we have smoke, but the CV is missing. So that's something he should have kept in mind before doing this smoke play, that he should have the CV ready to get into the zone. Since he has a bit of a problem with the point tick, that he needs to be in a hurry. So he doesn't have the time to fully clear the entire town of enemy units. He has to take a corner and contest the zone. Actually, it wouldn't even be a contest. There is no CV for Princess Evelyn. So if Zaywan would get a CV in here for long enough, he could capture the zone, even if there's a bunch of blue units still inside. Since the units inside can't capture it back. So that's definitely something that could have helped. Spitzgruppe A. Obviously dangerous against other infantry units, opponents. The scout doesn't have any rockets left over here. I like that there's also a Motostrelecke unit up here in the north, so that if there is an attempt for a sneaky play in the north, they will either kill it or at least Princess Evelyn will notice. I'm not sure if that's the best building for it, but at least it's a very nice spot in general to make sure that there are no sneaky units. We have a artillery piece now coming in for, or has been around for a while actually, for Princess Evelyn. Has fired a few shots. It's currently not aiming at anything, but 12 rounds were fired, while on the other side the 122mm of Zaywan still hasn't fired. It's moving forward. Princess Evelyn is obviously happy with just holding the ground, since 800 points in 7.5 minutes are hard to get back, so Zaywan needs probably more than one zone, so Princess Evelyn can stay defensive, can wait for him to push and overextend and then punish it. That would be a great spot for a cluster plane, for example, right now, but at least there's an Eagler directly in front of it and the group behind. Rocket planes are also not bad for it. They do deal some damage, take out one unit, but get pushed back by the large amount of books that are already on the field. Coups. BVPs trying to push forward. I like the idea that he tries to push in this direction. It's a bit late maybe. The loss of the tanks earlier down here, obviously a big problem. That he has to replace the units before he can push. Special forces fighting against the infantry units, T-72s. Seaplane, again. I like that he sent them in doubles and an AA plane behind it to fight off if opponent, or like the AA planes of the opponent come in to get the seaplanes out. The own MiG AA plane can deal with it. The Buk is actually still active, so the seaplanes could take it out if they fly into that direction. There's the AA plane that I mentioned. So now the MiG will probably come in to try and take out this MiG. And a second MiG coming in. And a third MiG. So now we have a big battle going on in the sky while a lot of blue units get destroyed on the ground as well. So we can see in the kill list on the right side a lot of units dying in the push in the north, south. Seaplane under fire now from the MiG. A lot of fireworks for us to enjoy in these last minutes of the map. Concourse gets a transport, maybe. No, units get out. T-55. But they're nicely placed Concourse BRDM-2s. So that's the right defensive units in the right place to stop any pushes. The Concourse over here out of ammo. BMP also out of ammo. So maybe that's one thing Evelyn could improve on, is to have the supplies ready. But in this case, it doesn't matter. She gets the victory. This time with a 1.14 kill ratio in her favor. So how did the map play out? It was a lot more focused in the north, what I didn't expect. It was not the heavy tanks on the side of Zaywan that I expected. So once again I was wrong with the focus on the tanks. We did see the seaplane, so I'm happy with that. And artillery again on the side of Zaywan, not active as much as it should be. So that's something he can improve on. Reinforcements, or resupply actually, did work quite well, I think. And maybe a bigger focus to push in the south when there's a complete overload of blue units in the north, so that you go somewhere else instead of fighting a defensive position that is already too strong. If we look at the kill feed, MiG got quite a lot of kills. Concourse, the command unit, I assume that was the one in the south. Another Concourse and tank. Was actually a T-80 aboard much earlier than I realized. The T-64BV got a lot of kills. That's also pretty nice. So yeah, that means that it's 2-0 for Princess Evelyn in the first SD League Season 5 match in Division 4. Thank you for watching, and I hope that I was a little bit helpful with my commentary for both players. And see you next time.